All right, good morning. It's our first episode of Deal Freak.
Morning.
Morning. And we've got our partner Robert here, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking about off-market acquisitions, how we both got into doing wholesaling deals, how we got our real estate experience.
Yep.
And we've launched, or we're kind of reframing our mentor program, and we first had Summit Now, but it seems like that doesn't tell people what real estate is.
Correct.
Or anything. And I was sitting there talking to my wife, who's watched me for almost 30 years, and she's always jokingly said, "You're kind of a freak when it comes to work, goals, and real estate." And so the name Deal Freak, Real Estate Deal Freak, just jumped out at us. That describes what it's like to be here, and you can spend a few minutes telling other people what it's like to work under and work with me. And so, I've been doing off-market for about 33 years now, and I stumbled into it just by happenstance. I wanted to be a developer. I wanted to be a real estate investor. And I got a couple properties under contract. I went to try and find money, figure out how to develop them, try and put everything in the pipeline. And literally everybody told me to fuck off. No money, no job, no credit. And so I one day just held them up, and within 48 hours, I had a guy writing me a check for $50,000. And when he wrote the check, he said, "Kid, go get me another one."
Yep.
And that started literally the quest for finding inventory for people that needed it and highest and best use of working with owners. And the one thing we like to get across from people watching us and learning from our program is 80-90% of real estate is designed to go out and find the deal that's very fractured, wounded, has to sell, distressed, pre-foreclosures, water shutoffs, estates. And while that is perfectly respectable if you'd like to work in that area,
Right.
we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Robert?
Yep.
And so we usually work in areas where we're trying to meet supply and demand. If there's 100 houses for sale at $150,000 within one zip code, it's probably not going to do you any good to go get a house at $148,000.
Correct.
If you want to wholesale it. So you've got to decide, where does supply not meet demand? In the Puget Sound region the last 30 years, and it will continue to be this way, supply has never met demand.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of apartments, there's a shortage of land to build on. All the land that's left is either wet, steep slope, wet, crickets, endangered frogs, salmon, spawning eagles, just anything you want.
Good old
Spawning
Perkins
fish.
Lane.
Yeah, okay. So if you're going to get into wholesaling, if you're going to go work off market, our niche is more meeting with owners and trying to make value to them rather than going out and hunting for the person that has distressed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really how my career started. I'd love to hear, Robert's one of our top people here. He's got over a decade of experience in wholesaling. He's a wealth of knowledge, teaching other people that come in how to learn, how to acquire off market, how to get into your first investment, how do you wholesale if you want to get into wholesaling. So
Right.
I'd love to hear how you started.
Yeah, no, getting the introduction of his wealth of knowledge from you is kind of, small little pat on the back, because I think the difficult thing is to try to kind of get into this side of the business is just the commitment to staying in it for more than a couple months, a year, 2 years. I had the opportunity with just a small startup that was kind of looking for someone to come in, just see what they could do, go out, start door knocking, do some small things. And, I went in for the interview, and the first thing he asked me was like, "Hey, what would you do if you made six figures this year?" I said, "Well, I've never made six figures, in my life. Be lying if I didn't say it would change my life and my family's life." And he said, "Well, you could do it here if you did the time, the work,
Sure.
and the effort."
Yeah.
And within the first year, made over 200. So that was
Nice.
probably the first time that I looked at, when it was all said and done, and said to myself, like, man, this is fun. Like, every day is different. Every person you meet is unique. Every conversation, every property. And I started out just doing standard wholesale. Went out, met with a mix of distressed people who were just done. Never really got into the foreclosure side of stuff until a couple years later. when it started to become more of a niche that people were trying to go into. And so, starting out from single family, going into distress, going into vacant, and then did that for about 3 years with that company that grew very successfully, and then transitioned out of that and tried doing it myself primarily. Started doing my own mailer, started doing my own cold calling, door knocking, and then got into land acquisition just to try it out. And it just so happened to be right before COVID hit.
Right.
So I didn't have anything going for me other than land deals. So I was mailing out to LR1, LR2s in King County area. And if anybody has ever ran into any objections or roadblocks, they've never tried to buy somebody's house in the middle of a pandemic specifically for the land.
Sure.
And the amount of fuck offs that you get, the amount of leave me alone, do you not understand that people are dying? And it's just like, okay, hold on. I just want your dirt. Like, right. I'm not
right,
here.
But simultaneously, all the builders stopped buying.
Correct. And so it was a mix of just like all the bad things you can imagine. People stop wanting to sell. People stop wanting to converse. People stop wanting to meet. A big part of what I think that you kind of can say that I do very well is shaking hands with people and getting to know people and really building the rapport in person. There was no doing that in COVID.
No.
You had to set up Zoom calls, Zoom meetings, and trying to get a 75-year-old guy to jump on a Zoom call with you is not fun at all.
Sure.
And so once the pandemic kind of transitioned and went out, started doing it for a little bit again, things started kind of on the up. And then that's when I kind of saw the posting for this position with you. And then it's been a ride ever since.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're by far one of the best people we've ever had come in the last 20 years.
Appreciate it.
You exhibit what we try and teach, which is daily focus, daily action, realizing it's a numbers game, trying to add value to the sellers, and if you're assigning or to a partner or to whoever's buying it, add value to them. And when you approach it that way, that's how we've had a level of success over the years.
Correct.
And, we can go through our various methods of getting lead generation, of doing mailers, the texting campaign, but I think you just summed it up in one word, which was meet. You meet and shake hands is when you have the highest level of success in this business. And the young kids coming in today can try doing the entire deal on text. I fucking hate text, right? I mean, I know text work, but it's hard to do business on text. It has a low level of response. And principally, most of the people we're transacting with as sellers are 50, 55 or older. And why they will text, it's not their primary form of communication.
Correct.
So the secondary method, or we call it the primary method, is starting with the phone and then meet in person.
Yep.
We had a funny last night that we wanted to share, because when we do anything out in the world, and this is what we teach when you come in here, I don't care what you're going to do, whether you're going to be an assistant helping acquire properties, whether you're going to be on sales and marketing. If you want to learn acquisitions and how to buy your first property or buy your second or third investment property, expand your portfolio, you have to have some network to connect with owners.
Right.
And you can go the traditional route of using brokers, which is fine. A lot of people do deals through brokerages. Seems like 80-90% of the industry has gone principal to principal. So everybody has some type of boat, casting net, some crew, some method of bait to engage and try and get a contact.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you are putting a frequency out in the world that says, I am interested in buying. And thanks to this new world of instantaneous responses and instantaneous gratification, people can post or say anything they want in the internet, or they can send you messages. And we got a funny one last night, which, boy, this guy must have had a bad day, because he started blowing me up at 8:17 p.m. and he says, I don't give two shits about you. Stop harassing me with your under market bullshit. Right?
This is a text.
No, yeah, he was texting. You are obviously a moron who doesn't know shit about real estate. Shove it up your ass. Okay, thank you. That was very nice. Appreciate that one. He went on to take it into the bathroom, and I think he tore it up and flushed it.
Oh, this was all the same guy?
The same guy.
This is dedication.
He wrote, fuck off, Jim. Fuck off, Jim. Okay. And then he went on to say my name is Fuckface and draw penises on my picture. Well, he was polite, though, and did include his name and his phone number if I wanted to get back to him.
Perfect.
But, yep, I left out the best one, which was blow me. So I don't know what's going on there, but certainly he's had a rough day. Part of the funny about this is it doesn't matter what you're going to do in the world. If you're going to come into this business and cold call, even cold call, we capitalize on warm calls, which all of our partners love. Anybody that's in our program loves the warm call business because warm leads are what you're capitalized on and are great at. Mm-hmm. It takes a much tougher personality to come in and cold call, which is mostly how the commercial and off-market world works. Right. Some form of connecting. Would you be interested in selling? Because about 90% of real estate is trying to find a seller. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if there's been a recession or a depression or changes in the economy. Supply is never going to meet demand. Right. There's just too many people, and every day millions and more are coming in. So with all the demographics and all the changes in the economy and the constraints on building, there's going to be a shortage of inventory the next decade. But if you put yourself out there, you have to be comfortable getting told to fuck off, people hanging up on you, people think you're trying to buy distress. And if you're doing wholesaling, the number one challenge is everybody thinks you're trying to get one up on them and take advantage of them.
Correct.
And that is the toughest hurdle you got to come over. And you can't be bothered when somebody draws penises on your face. It's just part of fucking life in this business. You know, you got to have a thick skin like John Wick.
Yep.
If you set out to add value to your sellers and you set out to add value to yourself, your partners, and or people you're assigning to other real estate investors, and you view it from that collective way, that's how you do hundreds of deals.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, without question. So my question to you is, and you witnessed some people come in and have great success. You've had great success. What leads somebody to be successful in our program, and what are the kids or people that don't succeed?
I think the biggest thing is what you said as far as the thick skin goes. The difference between going and approaching these type of sellers is that they're not distressed. They're not someone who's going to be having the desperation of I'm showing all my cards in order to move on to the next step or hope that somebody could come in and help me. We're trying to get into the door just enough to have the conversation of how can we provide a service to you so you can retire happily, so you can move on and still continue to, benefit from your property for the amount of years that you've owned it. Because, the tough thing is that these are owners that have owned their property for 20, 30, 40 years. They've had no reason to sell. They're not financially struggling. And do you run into those small one-offs where the person's like, I just can't afford to maintain this property anymore? But then you find out that they have 20 others and you're just, why can't you maintain this one? And then you kind of get into it and you start digging a little deeper and you find out 80% of the tenants are drug addicts. They just don't take care of the place. There's always a broken toilet. There's always something wrong. And it's just that property that they just don't want to deal with anymore. And now we're providing that asset to them. It's like, great, let me make you an offer. Let me take this off your hands and let me have that ability for you to continue to benefit from this property for having it paid off for the last 20 years, and let me deal with these tenants. Sure. Let me go through the evictions. Let me do this. Let me do that you're too tired to do because you have 20 others that you're managing. And I think the tough part that I would say is the difference between somebody who wants to be successful in this model compared to someone who doesn't is they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to go in depth with the sellers. They're just hoping that the seller will come out and tell them, I need to sell because of this. This is what I want. Great, let me write you an offer. But that's not the way that these deals are worked. And I think that that's been what I've seen kind of the up and down when it comes to people being successful and people being not, is how much time and effort you're willing to give each individual property. Sure. Opposed to just hoping that you're going to get a number, a time frame, and they want to move on. Sure. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. These take time.
Yeah, the easy fish. Just, okay, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just from start to finish, people can go into a distressed property and get someone to sign within a few hours. That's because they've run out of options, and all you're doing is providing them an opportunity. Whereas
they've already gone through the choices of trying to get it at a better
right
terms, and everybody's lowballed them or changed.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you're the eighth man in, and
Yep.
they just give up.
Another thing that I completely just kind of glanced over is that a lot of people don't have success because they're dealing with people who know real estate, maybe even know real estate better than they do. And all of a sudden somebody's coming back and offering to give you terms that you're just like, but that doesn't work for me. Oh, I know it doesn't work for you. You want to buy my property, it has to work for me.
Sure.
It doesn't work like that.
Right.
So I will give you price, you give me terms. And then you're like, no, you're going to give me price and terms. And so then that's where people stop and say, well, I don't like this back and forth. This guy's making me feel dumb about what I can do or not do. And then it kind of, that conversation deteriorates because now the seller knows that they have the upper hand, right? They have the ability to, same for you. If you were to sell one of your investments and you were to converse with somebody and some small time kid comes up and is like, hey Jim, let me buy one, you're probably got a great offer for you, and you're just like, what is it?
Yeah,
and he's
send
like,
it over.
yeah,
Yeah,
and he gets you the offer and you're just like, what do you think, when do you want to sign? And you're just like, no,
Yeah.
this is what I'll sign.
Sure.
And he's like, no, but I gave you this, why don't you want to sign that? It's like, because it doesn't work for me, I don't need to sell this property.
Right. None of the people we buy from want to sell.
Right.
Or they will sell, but they don't have to.
They don't have to.
9 out of 10 do not have to sell. And if they do sell, they select the person they feel comfortable with at the terms they want.
Yeah, so it's the change in mindset. Why am I providing you an opportunity to sell that can benefit you in the long run, and how can we make this work?
Sure.
And I think a lot of it comes down to just that conversation of, I'm here to offer a service, not a solution.
Sure.
This is something that we can provide to you to hope to move forward and take one off of these. And yeah, sometimes we run into the people that are like, I have a portfolio of 26 and I want to offload 22. And you're just
that's it.
Let's go one by one. And
well, I think, and one thing I want to say here is, I think we've noticed, and this is us starting to sound old. I'm got a few years over on you, but you're just old enough that you didn't grow up in a 100% texting Twitter world. Mm-hmm. You developed people skills, and this isn't being disrespectful to 20-somethings, but they have grown up in a world where their talking skills, their meeting skills, their interacting skills are not as developed as older people. And that can become a handicap. So getting kids in and going through the program, we teach them how to talk. We teach them what to say. When they get to a conversation, they give us the information. We tell them how to suggest, how to talk, what to offer the owner. And that's part of what our program does, is live training, deal by deal, walking you through your first purchases or your first wholesaling, if you want to become a wholesaler or you want to buy your first property. And getting you through the negotiations is what a lot of people don't do. They just give you the information of how to do it.
Right.
We're trying to take it to the level where this is one-on-one partnership and mentoring, and it allows you to either succeed in wholesaling or in buying investment properties. And whether that's single-family rentals, duplex, triplex, fourplexes, or large apartments, we can show you the nuances of each division and how to succeed in that.
And I think that comes heavily along the lines of coming mentally prepared to work. A lot of people are in that mindset that they're just going to show up, deal's going to fall in their lap, and it's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
People have to, I mean, it happens in any position, any career, any path, especially like in sports. People go through slumps, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have months, and I think that, case in point again, on our age, is that we've seen a huge amount of ups and downs and slumps and bad months and bad quarters, bad years. And people can and should have the mindset that you can make a lot of money and a lot of success in this career.
Sure.
But with that comes a lot of ups and downs.
But you've got to put in the work. And
that's,
being a coach of real estate and being a coach of success and failures. I've had massive failures in my life, and many of them is why I can tell you that's a dead end or don't do that is.
Right.
I'm just a fucking idiot. I've tried 10,000 times, and I've failed 9,900 times, and
Yep.
I've won 100 times of great deals and great projects and building companies. But I'm not perfect. I try and teach guys when they come in here that's a dead end. But if they don't have the work ethic, they won't succeed. This isn't a get-rich-quick overnight thing. If you want to learn real estate, if you want to learn how to buy property, if you want to learn how to evaluate property, understand real estate investments and how to add value and double the value of an apartment building, that's what we teach.
Correct.
Can't be done overnight. I can teach you wholesaling in 3-4 months. That is pretty teachable and coachable. If you want to learn everything we do, that's what we teach as well. But the kids who succeed, or the people that can succeed, after 30, 60, 90 days, they should be on a pace of about $250,000 a year. That's our minimum expectation if somebody comes in here, that if you actually sat here for 50, 60 hours a week, did exactly what we said, either sitting here or doing it online, wherever you are in the country, you should get to the point that you're doing about 2 deals a month, minimum. 2 deals a month, even if they're only 10,000 each, is 20,000 a month. Times 12 months a year is 240,000 a year. You throw in one more deal, you're at 250.
Right.
If you can get to 250, you're approaching the top 10% of the income earners in the United States.
Correct.
I will tell you, if you do that much work, you will suddenly, out of those 24 deals, look at 2 or 3 of them and go, hey, I'd like to buy that one.
Yeah.
I'd like to buy that one. And then you go to the next level, which is you're wholesaling and you're trying to buy your first, and you're trying to buy your second. We go through how to do that, how to find money, how to get a partner if you need a partner, how to do owner financing, which is our specialty. And suddenly you start leveling up in your understanding of real estate, negotiations, and maybe wholesaling starts out as your primary business, and in 5 years, you're not even wholesaling, you're just buying for yourself. That's what we love to teach here.
Yep.
So,
And I can attest to that. I think the biggest thing, and we've had a lot of these conversations, is when a deal comes in, it's like, how could I maybe talk about purchasing that one or things like that? Is that it's that open conversation of like, hey, we know that this is more than likely to be kept in house, but if there's an opportunity, can we talk about that? And that happens. And then of course there's the opportunity to just wholesale, and then the opportunity to look at different options as far as JV partnerships and things like that.
Well, I think this is what our program is different, is we are teaching everything. Lead generation, wholesaling, buying your own first house, buying your own rental property. If you want to learn development or commercial, we have that available as well. But it's trying to get you to understand that it's a global perspective. If you just want to be a wholesaler, that's fine. That's a great way to start out in this business with very little capital. You're basically taking your expertise and your time, and those that are most successful have the ability to connect with owners and are intelligent and articulate enough to get them comfortable with signing.
Right.
If you're going to be a wholesaler and you're only a wholesaler, your revenue will go down, because in the wholesaling world, people will try and go around you, or they won't pay you your fee you're asking if they think you can't perform.
Correct.
Right? We've all learned that the hard way.
Every opportunity that somebody can backdoor, there is a backdoor.
Sure. So we have lived in this world for 3 decades of wholesaling, trying to be polite, trying to make sure our sellers are comfortable, trying to make sure the people that buy from us and purchase and take title of the property feel good. It is hard at times to get people to write you a check for something you don't own.
Right.
That's a specialty, and we teach that. But if they feel like they can go around you, they're not going to write you a check. Which, if you're going to just be a wholesaler, you have to figure out how to have strong posture. You have to have strong contracts. You may even have to put up earnest money non-refundable to preserve your contract. And so teaching that is an art. So we have people here that are excellent at working with sellers. You're probably one of the best people I've ever seen do that. And then you got to turn your hat around to sell. That's kind of a different perspective.
It is.
You're not, shall we say, quite as polite. It's more business. You're trying to add value to that person, but they don't want to pay you. So it's a polite business transaction of, this is what I have to offer and this is what I charge. And as you've learned, you got to talk to a lot of people, and some will pay it and some will not. And that's life.
Yeah.
That's what we teach here.
It's the perfect example of just throwing stuff on the wall, or throwing a noodle on the wall hoping it sticks.
Sure.
It's just, you're constantly, same conversation. Do you want to buy this?
Sure.
Do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this? And then you just get constant feedback. And then at some point you realize and you learn, it's like feedback. where did the feedback go? And you're just like, okay, hold on, maybe I'm talking to the wrong people.
Sure.
Because then you kind of learn that flow and that system of like, these are people that are legitimately having a conversation with you, and these are people who just want on the information, and they go dark, and you're just
and then they go around you.
correct, and you're just like, okay, they went dark for a reason, and but those are all with give and take of learning and experience and just
Sure.
getting an idea.
And the number one challenge we've seen with some of our people coming in, trying to be deal hunters and learn the process is they're pretty excited for first few weeks, and then they realize it's hard.
Yeah.
They realize it's work. They realize, man, this is a lot of effort. And the ones that persevere and get past the first 3-4 months generally succeed at a very high level. We have dozens of people in Seattle that have been here and have now doing it on their own and have had great success wholesaling and building their portfolio. It just takes work, and you've got to commit. But every person that has come in here and done the work has had success.
Correct.
It's the ones that come in after a couple of weeks, don't want to make the calls, don't want to go through the reps. They start saying this is hard, and then they mentally realize it's hard, and then they give up.
Right.
And then they just walk out.
Yep.
See ya.
Work sucks, and some people just are in that mindset, and it's hard to get
Sure.
them out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's, I don't know. I think that a big key example I can give to people, and you as well, is that when people are in their 20s, single, living free, and they can dedicate hours and hours and hours, perfect. As soon as they start getting into that niche where it's like you have a family, you have kids, you have people you have to provide, you have mouths to feed, bills, all this stuff, there has to be that mindset that you're doing this day to day to provide at the end of it. And there are those people that are just like, well, I need a work-life balance. It's like, great. Have your work-life balance after you've done deals. Like that's what I tell people all the time. You need to have that mindset that there may be 8, 10, 12-hour days.
A lot of the wholesaling programs are going, we have someone here that was doing super low-end, people that just had to sell, inherited it, trying to get it for 30 cents on the dollar. That is a transaction and it works, but we're generally working with assets that are in high demand and nobody's quote-unquote giving them away. And so it's a supply and demand market.
Yeah.
And you're trying to bring supply to the market where demand exceeds supply.
Yeah.
That is the only time you will get paid as a wholesaler.
And that's a different conversation too, because as much as people have become aware of owner financing, sub to all this creative stuff, is that it's still such a new thing to most wholesalers that to them they look at it and they go, well, those numbers don't make sense. It's like, they don't make sense now or they don't make sense later. Like the projections are way off, and it's like, well, are you looking at it correctly? I mean, where else are you going to go get an unqualified purchase at 5% down?
Sure.
And then have 5 years to
with no personal guarantee, no financials,
and
no
have
credit
5
check.
years of a guaranteed rate in a volatile market.
Sure.
And in 5 years have the ability to either increase the asset. At the end of the day, I don't care what you do with the property. You have 5 years to figure out what you want to do with it. If you want to raise the value on it, perfect. You are doing it correctly. If you want to sit on it with the 5 years and hope that the market continues to ascend and your equity grows, and then you want to sell or refi and do whatever you want with it to pay off that principal when it's all said and done, that's on you. But that whole mindset that people look at it like, you're offering retail now, and that doesn't make sense. It's like, I know it doesn't make sense to you.
Sure.
But if you look at it and you sit down, you run the numbers, and you actually take time to actually put together a pro forma of what you're cash flowing in the asset, sure, you're paying the seller X amount of interest in those 5 years, but at the end of it, you're cash flowing. And what's more important?
Well, the ease of transaction of purchasing owner financing is just off the charts.
It is. You could close in 7 days if you wanted to.
7 hours. If
Yeah,
you get
if you
title
really
and
wanted
escrow.
to. Yeah.
I mean, the toughest part is getting title report. And
Yeah.
that takes
If you have the money at the table and you can get it done, and you have a willing seller that at that point, the greatest thing that I think that I've learned from you is that I always looked at real estate as a traditional black and white. It has to be closed this way and it has to be done that way. Where really escrow is there to just write whatever terms you want.
They'll do whatever you want.
If you can get a mutual handshake and at the end of the day you show up at the closing table where seller wants X and buyer wants Y, Well, then shit, you just put together a contract. You know, the whole thing of, you know, I've written a contract on a napkin at a bar.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you just got to put together a PSA when it's all said and done at the closing table. It's all give and take. It really is. And I think...
Well, you're a specialist at getting deals to the finish line as they progress. And we've had a lot of younger people that come in, and whether they've worked at traditional brokerages or before, they get very uncomfortable with the multi-step process of getting the seller comfortable with you and what we do, and that we're not trying to lowball, getting them in a baseline agreement, doing inspections, looking at leases, looking at what's up with the property, having a modification, even 2 modifications to finally get it closed.
Right.
And that's an art. And most guys just want the one and done transaction.
Yeah.
Which is traditional real estate.
It is.
With a very small variable
Yeah.
of some short inspection and one arm twisting.
Yeah. Buyer and seller agree on price and closing date. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
But there's much more to that, especially with these assets when it comes to multiple doors, multiple units, and multiple variables. I mean, a big part of it is that you can walk into, case in point, a 27 unit, you know, apartment, and the first 10 doors you look at, beautiful, pristine, gorgeous.
Sure.
The next 10 you look at, what the hell happened here? Why do these people live here compared to those other people?
Yeah.
And then you finish it off in the last 7, you have a hit or take, and then you have
Well, if you have a good owner that'll let you in, most will hide
Exactly.
the 10. Yes,
That's
they'll
yeah.
only show you the 2 good ones.
But the best reaction that you can get from a seller is when you walk into a property and it's like, when's the last time you were in these units? Oh, it's been a while,
20
years.
Yeah.
And you walk in and you just let them point everything
Yeah.
out. Oh my God, I didn't realize they did that. I'm so sorry you had to see that. And I'm just, I think like what you said, that's something that I do naturally, that I kind of let the owner down talk the property themselves. And it's always at the end of the day, when it's a conversation, it's like, well, now we need to talk a modification. There is no doubt in their mind. They're like, yeah,
they know.
we do.
Yeah, they're comfortable.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up today with, we are currently looking for guys that want to come in, guys and gals that want to be deal hunters, either locally in the Seattle area or remotely through whatever town in USA they are. So we'd like to check out our program and see what we offer. We are actively, shall we say, interviewing and screening for guys that really want to commit to a program for a year to try and increase their net worth by $1 million. And when we say that, we're not kidding. If someone came in and if you want to try and stay up with me, I work somewhere between 80 and 90 hours a week.
Yeah.
I used to work 100, but now I have a life, so I sometimes work 75, 80 hours a week. I will be here. I will outwork anybody here. You want my time, I will sit down with you. I will mentor you one-on-one if you're committing. If you're listening and doing what we ask you to do, you get an unlimited amount of my time, as much as I can give you to help you be successful. And we're looking for people that want to do that with us.
Yep.
And so if you're interested in doing that, send us your information, contact us today. Robert and I would love to get you on the team and show you how to succeed in both off-market acquisitions, but building your own portfolio as well.
Yep.
So,
I think a big part of that is just come ready to work, because we go fast and we want people to go fast with us.
yes.
Yep.
We like driven, motivated people.
We do.
Yep.
Yep.
So thanks
So,
for your time today,
appreciate
Robert.
it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Will.
Yep.